What is up? It's Saturday, time for another weekend project, and today I will be setting up Packer to create VM templates for my Proxmox cluster. The twist today is I will be using the new code editor Cursor to hopefully do all of the hard work for me. Let's get started.
That did not go as planned.
All right, it's Sunday night now, and I did a bunch of work that I didn't record, but I did manage to get something working. I had to revert pretty much all of my work back to some existing templates that I found online from existing kind of boilerplate repos for Proxmox Packer templates, essentially. I'll include in the description a link to the repositories I ended up leaning on pretty heavily to make sure I had my Packer template set up correctly. I have a lot of research and kind of independent study that I need to do to fully understand everything that's going on before I talk about it intelligently. I'll provide a quick demonstration of what you'll find in my GitHub repository by creating a template VM using Packer and then deploying that template VM using Terraform. A couple of quick takeaways that I've learned over the past 2 weekends setting up Terraform and Packer for my Homelab. First is Cursor is awesome. I've recently switched from VS Code to Cursor, both in my career and for my personal projects. Cursor just provides a lot of really nice ergonomic features when working with LLMs and chatbots. Cursor probably deserves its own video, and I won't do it justice by talking about it here, and I've only just broken the surface on how I can use it to its full potential. Second is I ran into a lot of issues relying too heavily on the responses I got from LLMs. I was using a combination of GPT-4o and Claude Sonnet 3.5. Regardless of the model I was using, I would get responses that just weren't fully complete. I don't think this was the fault of the model. I think what this really comes down to is there's not a lot of examples of Terraform and Packer implementations for Proxmox. If you just look at GitHub, you're only going to find a handful of projects that's going to have code or boilerplate for Packer and Terraform specifically for Proxmox. You can compare this to a question you might ask for something simple like how to do something in Python or how to do something in JavaScript. And there's tons of examples on Stack Overflow, there's tons of repositories on GitHub, and it's going to provide a very concise response that can probably run by just copy and pasting that code into a file. This was not the case for me. Oftentimes, I would get a pretty good base for the files, but there would be references to variables that didn't exist in the documentation, or for example, would provide an older version of the Terraform provider, which actually resulted in about an hour of me troubleshooting type errors. All of this to say is I think I went into this with the wrong mindset. I shouldn't have expected ChatGPT or Claude to have provided a script that it could have ran out of the box that was just going to run. Now it did provide me a very good base file that I ended up using and also organized my project like most Terraform or Packer projects would. But like I said, I ended up having to go to GitHub to find examples of people who have gotten this stuff to work and then compare what I was doing to theirs and find the mistakes that I was making. Last but not least, and I don't want to overshadow this, is that Packer plus Terraform is an extremely powerful combination. Now that I have this boilerplate that I know works, I'm going to be able to create custom templates very easily from this and then deploy them through Terraform automatically. I'm really excited to get into more fun projects like standing up K3s and then standing stuff in K3s. But if I don't have the infrastructure to stand K3s up on, and that isn't networked correctly together, and everything underneath isn't managed correctly, then I'm just going to run into issues. So This is going to take a lot of the headache away from all that, and it's going to make it repeatable. It's just really exciting when you realize how cool this stuff is. So what did I end up with? The core of my template is really the same. There are a couple big mistakes that I had made that I want to point out. One was I was trying to create this template using the image file and not the ISO. Now I may need to do a little research here, and if I'm wrong, please provide direction in the comments, but I was trying to initially use the Ubuntu image in Packer. This always gave me an error. It was mounting incorrectly and it wouldn't boot up, and so I ended up going the ISO option. So by using the ISO, it really increased the complexity of what I was trying to do, because when you spin up the ISO, you need to set it up, right? You're gonna boot up into the installation menu for Ubuntu. And so the biggest change I had to make was setting up everything once Ubuntu booted into the installation screen. And so for this, I relied heavily on Christian's, which I think I mentioned earlier, his repo in GitHub. And the meat and potatoes of that is the boot command and the user data that sets everything up. And all the boot command really is a series of keyboard inputs. But the most important bit of the boot command is this bit here, which is what's going to auto provision your Ubuntu instance based on all of the other settings you put in. Now this is another section that I really need to get smarter on to be able to talk intelligently about it. But what I can tell you is that some web servers being stood up by Packer to do this auto provisioning. If you're having issues reaching this web server that's going to be stood up and do the auto provisioning, there's a section in this code where you can set up bind addresses for that web server and ports. Now I was using WSL, which was another reason I was having issues hitting this web server, and I actually ended up installing Packer directly on Windows and running it from there, and that resolved a lot of issues. You're also going to have an HTTP directory, and in that HTTP directory is where your user data is going to live. And in that user data file is going to be some of your initialization data, such as SSH keys, username, password, and packages you might want to install. Last section I want to talk about here in the Packer file before I do a quick end-to-end demo is the build section. Pretty much all that's going on here in the build section is completing the provisioning of Cloud Init on your template. Realized I'm not centered on this thing. I'm really sorry. People are probably like,
"Ugh, idiot."
I'm super tired right now. I really just want to go to bed. I'm sorry. Dude, is that better, everybody? Am I centered? See that don't quit sign in the back? Don't quit. We don't quit. That's why I'm still awake. I'm going to wake up in the morning and work out still. But we got to finish this. All right. Okay. Quick end-to-end demo. So I went ahead and deleted the template that I already created. Like I said, so I have a PowerShell terminal up here, and I have WSL up. I'm going to use WSL still for Terraform. I'm in my PowerShell for Packer because it doesn't work in WSL, which is a bummer. I need a Linux machine is really what it comes down to. And I actually do have a Windows Surface Book 2 that I installed Ubuntu on, and I want to make that kind of like my work machine. I wonder if I can install a cursor on it and use that. The hardest part is going to be screen sharing and doing demos like this. Anyway, quick aside. So I'm going to run Packer build. I'm going to reference my variable file, which includes my secrets, and then point it to the Packer file that has my everything I just set up, and press run. So this is actually going to take a little bit of time, but while it's running, we can check out what's happening in Proxmox, because I think it's really cool. So this is really cool. Cool, we made it in time. You're going to see it. And then you're going to see it type the command here, auto install NSCloud. It's going to reference that IP, the bind port and bind IP address that we had set in our Packer file. That was what was being typed in there. Pretty crazy. Pretty cool, actually. And then it just ran that boot command, right? You saw the installation screen, it clicked around stuff, and that's what got ran. So pretty cool. Sorry, don't hit the desk. That was a comment last time. I'll tell you, the most difficult thing to troubleshoot in all of this is the user data, because you don't get any, unless you watch this, you don't get any feedback of what is going on. And even if you get this far, that means the user data worked. If your user data is not syntaxed correctly or whatever, it just won't work, and you won't know why it didn't work. You just have to look at it. And I think it's gonna convert it to a template now. Look at that. Boom. It's a template. We got a template. That's it. That's all. That's Packer. That's Packer for you. It did its job. Okay, let's go back to cursor. Now it took 8 minutes, 23 seconds to complete. Build finished. Artifacts. The artifacts of successful builds are this template, and the ID is 8,000. Just like we had put in our Packer file. So very cool. It's created. And so now, if I go to my Terraform file, main.tf, and here what I've already done is I've swapped out the clone, the template that I want to clone from. It was Ubuntu template. The new template I just created is test Ubuntu template. Again, I'm going to clean all this up and kind of change it later. But this is the clone I just created, right? And if I go to my WSL terminal here, I can run Terraform apply, auto approve it, and run. And we should see 2 Ubuntu virtual machines from the template we just created in Packer be stood up in our Proxmox cluster. Well, single node. So it looks like it's creating. Let's go check out Proxmox and see the magic happening for ourselves. VM1 is up. VM2 is coming up. And if we want to do a quick proof of concept that everything's working, what we can do is SSH into one of those machines. So using the key pair that I had injected actually into that machine, I'm able to SSH into that machine, and now look, here I am. A Homelab dad VM2. I don't know if you can see that. I can space up. Yeah, that's the machine I just created. And it even created, you can see the username, right? Homelab dad is the username. And that wasn't anywhere in the template that I had created. If you go to the main.tf file, you'll see that the CI user is Homelab dad. And so that was actually injected into this machine. Not injected, but that username was initialized in this machine using CloudNet. But from the template, right? The template username we created was Ubuntu, and now this root user is Homelab dad. So pretty cool stuff. So you can do that with SSH keys. That's why CloudNet is so powerful, right? Because you can inject this stuff in there. It's the same kind of technology or tooling that cloud platforms like AWS use to initialize their EC2 instances with SSH keys, usernames, networking, all that stuff. That's what we're basically doing, but on our home network. It's so cool when you think about it. It should get you pretty excited. It gets me pretty excited. So I kind of accomplished what I set out to do this weekend, which was use Packer to create a template VM that I could then launch through Terraform. That piece is done. More targeted objective was to actually create 2 different templates using Packer. One template for a K3's control node and one template for K3's worker node, and then use Terraform to stand up those 2 templates. And so I have all of the pieces here. I keep trying to use Cursor and use AI assistance, and I feel like I'm forcing it maybe to make a video, but I'm going to do it again. I think this is a good use case. I think you have to find the use case. Like I said, I think that using or trying to use AI assistants to generate Packer and Terraform templates for Proxmox is a bad use case. Just because, I'm probably less than 1% of people that's doing this in their house. Hopefully there's a lot more that are interested in watching this and doing it, but and that's why you're probably watching this, because there's not very many people doing this, and maybe you're interested in doing it. But that's the reason why the AI assistant's not very good at it, is because there's not a lot of people doing it. It's not as many people as writing Python scripts, right? I digress. But what I think I can do is, now that I have the base and everything's working, variables are working, version names are working, my goal is to essentially ask Claude in Cursor to modify my existing templates that I have, my existing Packer file, to create 2 VM templates, one for a control node, one for a worker node. I'll give it all the specs. And my expectation is, now that it kind of knows what things should look like, or I can use that as an example, or what I have as an example, and can just tweak the little settings. Like, really the differences I'm going to want is like CPU, memory, disks, stuff like that, which should be pretty easy to change. That's really going to be the main difference. There's not going to be a ton of other things I'd be interested in setting up on. Maybe I set, even the installation is going to happen afterwards of K3s itself. So it's not like I'm going to initialize it as a worker or as a control node. So I think it's going to be pretty easy. I think that use case is pretty easy. And same with Terraform. I have a good base. I have something that works. And so it should be pretty easy to say, hey, I have these 2 templates. I'm interested in standing up one of each. Using my existing template as kind of a base, can you do that? So I think that's a good use case. Anyway, that's my plan for the next video. Thanks for watching. I just want to say I am just taken aback by all the support that I've gotten for all of my videos, all the super kind comments, all the interactions. It's really pushing me to stay consistent, keep making content every week. I'm really trying to keep that pace up. It's hard, but I just want to say thank you for pushing me, and I hope that if you like this stuff, to comment and engage and help me continue this journey, and like and subscribe. I'm also starting a Discord, so if that's something that you're interested, let me know. I'll start dropping the link in the video description. Would love to chat with others that are doing this stuff kind of on the regular, get feedback from people that are experts in this field or have a lot more experience than I do. It can be really cool to just kind of have a place to talk about this stuff with others that are interested in it. So hope to chat soon, and we'll see you in the next one. Out here. Peace.